what I figured we'd do today here, and I want you guys to be thinking through any questions you have. And especially, I don't know if you guys have been prepped at all, if there's certain questions that should be off limits. There's nothing off limits here, right? So whatever you guys might have, let me know, and then I've got the list of potential questions also. So I can fill the whole time talking, but I really want to make sure you guys get some of your questions answered and stuff. But let me start with, hand this out to you. So as a financial advisor, let me kind of talk through what I do. And this is how I literally start with clients of mine. In fact, here, let me give you one as well. Have this follow along. So, yeah, when do people think about meeting with a financial advisor? And I'd ask you guys, what do you think a financial advisor is? But I'll tell you, most of my clients don't know until they actually sit down with me. Usually when people are thinking about working with a financial advisor, they either have money that they want to do something with, they've inherited money maybe, or they've just been saving it up through work, or they have a certain goal they want to reach. They want to retire at some point in their life at a certain age. They want to buy a house, they need to pay for college for children, or whatever the case may be. That's when people usually come into my office and want to talk. So I give them, this is a financial planning tool that we have, and this is where I start with clients. So, and you can see here, it's very simple, right? Down to basically stick figures on this page. That's on purpose. Now, you guys are sitting here now because you have interest in finance stuff potentially, whether it's financial advisor or just in the finance industry. Not everyone has a financial mind, right? So most of my clients are that way. They don't want to know more of the details and stuff. They want high level like this. So you can see on this page here, this is the information that I gather from a client because I can't give them good financial advice until I know what they have and I know what they're trying to have me help solve for, what their goals are. So the information I gather on this, and this is one that I made up for John and Jane Jones here. So the top parts on the upper right and left are their incomes. I have to know what their incomes are. And there's current incomes, their employment income, and there's future incomes. Maybe they have pensions or they have something like Social Security coming in down the road. I need to know what those different pieces are. Then on the middle and bottom parts, on the right and left, on the corners, these are their assets. So maybe they have current retirement plans. You've probably heard of 401ks and stuff like that people have from working. So I gather that information from them, what they have in the bank. And in this case, because I've got a husband and wife on here, sometimes husbands and wives have their separate bank accounts. So we want to make note of all that sort of stuff. Where are all the assets out there? And then there's other ones down here that are non-retirement money. Again, some people have money for retirement set aside. Some people have money in the bank that they just want to invest. So I gather all that sort of information there. The very bottom of the page and the middle shows any joint investments they might have in their home. People's home is a lot of times one of their biggest assets. And then the center part, on the upper part there, are the different insurance products that I offer that are part of a financial plan. So if you think about it, if someone has a goal to retire at a certain age, and it's a husband and wife, and the husband dies, the whole plan falls apart if we don't have something like life insurance in place to kind of replace that income and that money that they're going to set aside for retirement. So these are the different things, different pieces of the puzzle that I gather when I'm going to be helping someone. And people sometimes first meet, they want to know what are my recommendations. I have no idea until they actually come in and I get this info and I figure out what goals are we trying to solve for. So a lot of people think as a financial advisor, all I'm doing is investing money. The reality is I'm not doing a lot of that. I'm gathering this information from them, and then there's certain companies I work with that actually take the money and invest it. They're making the decisions on what stocks and bonds and stuff to buy and sell. I do some of that. I don't do a lot of that. A lot of what I'm doing is being in front of people. So this is what I do as a financial advisor. So any questions on that? Just again, high level. None of you are thinking being a financial advisor, so I won't go too far into the weeds on it. But it gives you an idea as a career. This is what I'm gathering and working towards. So any questions on any of that? Okay, so then what I figured I'd jump into, how did I get here, right? How did I become a financial advisor? So my kind of career path and my college path. So when I graduated in 2001, I went to Miami University, pre-med. Now when Mrs. Weitz just introduced me, it wasn't Dr. Chapman, right? So there's been a change. I was there for 2 years. And I got through all the weed out classes. And grades were good, and the organic chemistry. So I didn't change my mind from that reason. I felt like my heart wasn't in it. I think I was chasing it for the wrong reasons of wanting to be a doctor. I figured I'm smart enough and I can pull it off. But I just kind of decided that wasn't going to be the best path for me. So I was talking with my parents about it, and I actually came back to Dayton after 2 years, and my parents were thinking about starting a real estate business, buying and selling houses, rehabbing and stuff. So this is 2003 time frame. Again, I don't think any of you were born yet. So we did that for several years, and I didn't want to stop school completely, so I started going to Sinclair. I was working on a real estate and property management associate's degree. Seemed very appropriate for what I was doing at the time. But I wasn't doing it quickly. I was kind of taking my time. I was working during the day, and I was doing evening classes. So everything was going fine on that, and then we hit 2007, 2008. And you guys have heard about 2008. You probably read about it in your textbooks, right? Not a good time, especially to be in real estate. So I really started to realize at that point, okay, the value of a 4-year degree, kind of having a backup plan. You know, the best time to do school is when you're in school, right? Obviously for what you'll learn, but also for the doors it will open. I talked to my counselors at Sinclair, and I got done with my associates then. So graduated from Sinclair, and then took all of those credits from Miami, which was very science heavy, right, with being pre-med, along with everything from Sinclair. Went to Franklin University, and that's where I got my bachelor's in marketing. Again, I wanted business. I wasn't sure what business, but marketing seemed to make sense, and I knew from the real estate stuff I'd done, I wanted to be in business, I wanted to be in front of people. Marketing seemed like a good plan. So I did marketing, and pretty quick thereafter, I started my MBA at Wright State. And I wasn't sure, you had to pick a concentration. They give you a little bit of time. They wanted to give you a little bit of time to pick a major, right, on your bachelor's. And so they said, don't do marketing. You want to be more well-rounded. But I wasn't sure what concentration to go with. And so there was one professor there who, it was a kind of a lower level finance class that everyone had to get through before you could do the actual MBA classes. And he pulled me aside at one point. He said, John, the questions you're asking in class, kind of your understanding of these concepts, looking at your exam grades, you need to consider finance. You obviously have a mind that does numbers. Not everyone does. So that's how I chose my concentration. You know, sometimes you have that teacher, that professor that makes that big of an impact. So then I had to figure out what to do with this finance concentration on an MBA, because I'd had a job in the meantime where I was spreadsheeting all day, which a lot of people think, finance, you're going to be doing numbers and spreadsheeting. And it bored me to tears. I hated the job. I was there 6 months. I didn't like it anyway. And they wind up walking me into the HR office, and they said, this is your last day. And I'm like, this is a job I don't already like, and I'm getting fired from it. So sometimes in life, what you realize from a job is what you don't want to do, and that's just as valuable as learning what you do want to do. So I would say, if you guys have an opportunity to do any internships, I know that's one of the questions on here, you should absolutely do that. As you're going through college, get into the actual job place as much as you can to figure out, is this something I actually want to do? Because I did not want to spreadsheet. I wanted to be in front of people. So then I graduate, and I'm thinking to myself, what do I need finance stuff in my head, but I want to be in front of people? And so being a financial advisor seemed to be this perfect mix of that. You know, I have to know all this complex stuff and then be able to boil it down and have it make sense to people that are sitting in front of me doing this that don't want to talk about numbers. They don't care, they don't like it. You know, their eyes glaze over, they go to their happy place. So that's kind of how I wound up being a financial advisor. So any questions on that kind of career path, or any thoughts, anything you guys have on that? Okay, so, and again, I can look at this list of questions here, and I can keep running through stuff, but I'll open it up here. Any other questions you guys have on either on finance stuff in particular, job stuff? What are you guys thinking? Yeah, sure.
So where you're at now, where you're about to celebrate your 10th anniversary, is that when you first went out of college when you started with finance? Or how many places did you go?
Yeah, good question. So kind of career path. So the 10-year anniversary I'm talking about is being a financial advisor at this company. So because it's been 20 years, you know, I graduated in 2001. So, and the different jobs and stuff I've had along the way. So I did the real estate company with my parents, and that, I mean, we worked with a couple houses even just a few years ago. So we do a little bit with that still, but Not much. That's really on the side now. So I did that pretty heavy through probably 2009, winding things up after the '08 meltdown. I had the one job for the 6 months, spreadsheeting, and that was not good. And then I got an internship, actually. It was at GE Money, and it's now called Synchrony Financial. They were based in Kettering, and now they've shut their office down. Everyone works remote. So I figured I had it made. Here, I'm an intern at GE, a Fortune 100 company, and they had said, that's when I was doing my MBA, they said, you know what, John, if you want a job here at GE, you've got it. Whether it's here in Kettering or GE's a global company, wherever you want to go. But I saw what the finance people at GE did, and they were in spreadsheets. That's what they were doing all day. Some people in finance want to be in front of people. Some people in finance, they want to look at their numbers and they don't want to talk to anyone, right? So that's what those finance people were. So I really didn't want to do that. It was my boss at that job that said, think about what's your skill set, where do you find your happiness, what gives you energy, all that sort of stuff that wound up landing me into being a financial advisor. So those kind of the jobs I had along the way. Why don't we talk about how I got the job I did, kind of how did I interview, how did I go out there, because I kind of did it in an interesting way, kind of snuck in under the radar. So instead of sending my resume out to companies, once I graduated and wanted to be a financial advisor, I didn't just send my resume out saying I'm looking for a job. I sent my resume out with a cover letter that said I'm looking for a mentor. I got a list from Wright State of some of the local financial companies here, and this was one of them. Equitable was one of them. And so I sent this letter out with a copy of my resume, and I sent it by like priority mail. So I figure everyone gets a priority mail envelope and opens it, right? It's probably important, and it costs money to do that. And so I said in there, listen, I just graduated, and you have been in this industry for a while. You're established. I would love to either take you out to lunch or a cup of coffee and just get some help. If I'm looking to get into this industry, what guidance would you give me? How could you help me there? And are there certain companies I should look at or certain ones I should avoid? Are there other opportunities here now that I have this degree and stuff that I should look at? I mean, I don't know what I don't know. And so I wound up sending out 20 of those. And I wound up getting 4 people to reply that I actually met with, and I got 3 job offers out of that. And it gave me the opportunity to get in front of them, right? Usually when I can get in front of someone, they're like, you seem like a pretty good guy. So I just needed to get in front of them. I needed to break that barrier there. And so Equitable is one of those companies.
That is really a brilliant idea because it's different, it's unique. Everyone sends a letter, a resume, and a cover letter. That is a really great idea.
Yeah. And I'd heard this from someone else. So I'll give credit there, but yes. And a little bit more on that. So I sent 10 of these letters out, and I got replies, I think, from maybe 2 of the people. And then I sent 10 more out to 10 new people, but I want to circle back to those ones that didn't reply. And so I came up with another letter in there, and I kept using the word time. Hey, there's still time to talk to me. I still have questions. And I put an egg timer, one of these like little hourglass things with sand in there. Again, so now the envelope's lumpy. They're going to open it. And so one of the guys, it's Buckingham Financial Group, based here in Centerville, Jay Buckingham. He was one of the 4 that I talked to. And he brought me in, and he said, I just wanted to see the face of the person who put an egg timer in an envelope. So it was enough to break that ice. Yeah, I mean, kind of, again, that goes back to also my marketing. Like I like creative stuff. So how can you kind of think outside the box a little bit and get in front of people? So I think that there's also nothing like walking into a place. I mean, that shows some courage. If there's a certain company you want to apply with, you can send all the emails you want. It's so easy to delete, push those aside, and even push mail aside. If you show up in person, you do that enough, and they're like, man, let's give this person a chance, right? So that's how I wound up with Equitable. Does that spawn any more questions? Any other you guys have, or I'll keep going?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
We'll get it back. You said that, so there's like 2 types of finances where some people just sit and look at spreadsheets all day, and then there's the other type. Is there any like specific difference between that?
Yeah, well, I would say like even like as financial advisors. So one professional designation I did not get, and I think about it, but it'll take a lot of work. So maybe at some point is to be a CFP, a Certified Financial Planner. So that's a designation I could get, and about 10% of financial advisors have that. So you want to elevate yourself a little bit more, you can do that. Another option for financial people is get a CFA, and that's short for Chartered Financial Analyst. Those are the people that want to look at the numbers, right? They're going to create a portfolio, they're going to look at 50 stocks, and they're going to look at the stocks, PE ratio and the alpha and the beta and all these different criteria of a stock. That bores me to tears. I don't want to do that. I want to be in front of people, right? So there's a place for everyone. If you've got a numbers mind, and if you're an extrovert, which is what I'm accused of being, I want to be in front of people, there's a place for me. If you're a numbers person and you're introverted or don't want to be in front of people at all, there's all sorts of options there. There's even financial advisors, though, that we call them stock jocks, where they want to create their own portfolios. And they're calling their clients and they want to, hey, I have a great hot stock tip. I never call my clients with that. That's not the type of investing that I do with my clients. So again, there's other options even for financial advisors that way. So yeah, I would say like if you have a numbers mind, you can think through, and you don't have to know right now. You get through college, right? Open those doors, but there's options for you there. Does that answer it? Okay, good. Do you have a question too? Yeah.
So would you say so I'm an introvert, and I do like to be like face to face with people if I had a job or something, and I did that. I wouldn't really like to sit in a desk. Would you say there was anything that made you reconsider what you wanted to do, or was there any setback for you?
Yeah, so I would say, again, me thinking, okay, I know numbers, I know finance, having that spreadsheeting job, and the other part of that, so in 6 months I gained 30 pounds, eating food at my desk, trying to stay awake. And they kept accusing me, hey, sit down and get lost in the spreadsheet. And I just couldn't do it, right? That was a setback, I guess, for my self-esteem a little bit, right? Nothing like getting fired from a job you don't like anyway. And the pay wasn't great. And so there were a lot of life lessons learned there. I'll say now as a financial advisor, and even me being an extrovert and knowing people are introverts, so I work with a business coach, started about a year ago, because I am smart enough, I would hope to realize I don't know, again, what I don't know, right? So this coach works with all sorts of business owners, including a bunch of financial advisors. Well, why not tap into him and all of his knowledge? So his big push for me is, you hate the paperwork, John, because I keep showing to my computer, through Zoom, and all the paperwork stacked up. I want to be, again, in front of people. I don't want to be doing all the work afterwards, right? So I can hire for that. So I've been doing that now. I've gone through a couple of admins. I think I've got the right one now. She's part-time, and she understands numbers. She does not want to be in front of people. She's very quiet. So she can sit down and just do paperwork for hours, which is awesome. That's not my skill set. I can force myself to do it. Eventually, I'm so much more productive if I'm in front of people. So yeah, there's other options there for people that are more introverted, certainly. So, does that answer it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Aaron, you said you can talk one-on-one with someone?
Yeah.
Because wouldn't you say most of your work is you're not speaking to a group,
Yeah.
right? So I wouldn't make that a stumbling block for you to try it out.
Yeah, correct. Most of it, you're absolutely right, it is one-on-one. Because if you think of it, if I'm talking about this sort of stuff with people, I heard it said once before, it's maybe a little crude, but it's very accurate. People have to get financially naked in front of me. I have to know all of it, right? Or I can't give good advice. So if we're going this far into the weeds, what do you have in your checking and savings account? How much do you have set up for retirement? What are your debts? I have to know all of it, right? Some pretty personal financial stuff. That's done one-on-one. I can't do that in a group setting because I need you to be honest, right? Some people will say it all. Most people won't. They're pretty quiet. In fact, I have people that want to work with me. They know other financial advisors and they're friends with them. They don't want their friend to know their specifics. And of course, I've got some of my own friends that work with me because they trust me and they're fine with me knowing the specifics. Everyone's different that way. My own in-laws wanted to work with, and they said, who would you recommend within your company, John? because it's family and money, and we just don't want, whereas my parents couldn't wait to have me be their advisor. So everyone's a little bit different that way, but yes, it is absolutely one-on-one. So I don't mind doing the groups also. I like that, coming out, whether it's you guys, whether there's a networking group that I'm part of. We meet every week, and I'm now the president of that chapter, so there's 30 members there, so every week I lead this meeting in front of people. So I've always liked public speaking. I've always felt like I'm decent at it, but as an actual financial advisor goes, it's one-on-one. Yeah, great point. Good. What other questions? What other thoughts do you guys have? Yeah?
So you said you went to what, 4 colleges?
Yep.
How much does hold on, since it wasn't all finance for college, how much debt, how long does it take to pay off your debt?
Yeah, so good question. So my parents had set some money aside for college, so they basically paid for Miami when I was there. Then the Sinclair, that's cheap enough that fortunately I could just pay for that as I went. And then, so I had some student loans from Franklin University. It was about $10,000 from Franklin. And then for my MBA, I was working part-time at GE then. So I was basically taking extra out on my student loans, right? It wasn't all just the cost of the MBA. I took extra out. It's about $35,000 that I had for my MBA. So even as far as student loans go, I was on the lower part of the totem pole. I mean, I have a lot of clients that have a lot more. I had $45,000 total worth of debt. So that's how I did that. And then the first couple years, I was paying basically just the interest on that as I was getting myself established. And then I'm a car guy, and I know I put that in the bio. So I told myself I can't buy my next fun car until my student loans are paid off. I'm a financial advisor. I have to be smart with my money, right? What kind of advice can I be giving clients and then doing silly stuff myself? So then I made it a priority and got the loans paid off. But for a little while, I was paying $1,000 a month. Again, just hammer, get it done, right? So and I wound up coaching a fair number of my clients. They either have student loans themselves, if they're younger, usually younger professionals, or working with the parents of kids like you that are going to school, and the parents go, help my kid. Either they're taking out debt or they've graduated or whatever. So my client that has the most student loans, he was at $360,000 for his student loans, and he was doing not even an interest-only payment. He was adding $20,000 a year to that. So finally, he decided he was going to take big bites out of it, and he's paying $10,000 a month towards his student loans. He's in the medical field. So he'll have them paid off in a little while, and then his.
That's not a normal situation.
That's not normal. That's the extreme. I'll say most clients that either if they're professionals and have student loans or the children do, 50 to 100,000 seems to be where a lot of people land. The rule of thumb I've heard is ideally if you can, whatever you think you'll earn in your first job, if it's $50,000 a year, you should try not to have more than $50,000 in student loans. That's the general rule of thumb, because then the repayments are going to be easy with what you're earning. If you want to be a kindergarten teacher and you're going to go $150,000 in student debt to get that degree, those numbers are challenging, right? So the other advice that I give to either my clients that have students like you guys going to school, going the Sinclair route, even to start, that's great, right? My Sinclair teachers and even my Wright State teachers, what I liked about a lot of them were they had real world experience. I'm getting to Sinclair at 6 o'clock from my class, and the teacher's walking in from her job that she just came from. She's in the field, right? They're doing that sort of work. There's one thing, textbook and theoretical, it's important, but in my mind, the practical, actual experience made some good sense too. So especially at a Sinclair, you've got a lot more of that. So yeah, it's a lot cheaper. You can kind of pay for it along the way. You can figure out with the material, is this actually what I want to do or not? So if you realize, like I did after 2 years of Miami, it would have been a whole lot cheaper to do 2 years at Sinclair and realize I don't want to be a doctor than doing that at Miami. Especially because the first few years of college are usually the gen ed stuff anyway. So I think one or both of you mentioned Sinclair. So yeah, I think that's a great idea in general. And that will help keep your student loans down. So, good. What else? Good questions, guys. Keep them coming. Nothing off limits. What are you thinking? Or I'll go back to the sheet. You guys have any other questions? Anything else you guys want to add? So let's see here. We talked about my process there. Okay. So favorite part of the job or least favorite part of the job? So again, you guys might not be thinking financial advisor, but in case you are, some interesting parts of my life here. I have no boss. I don't report to anyone. To come here today, I just had to let the other advisors in the office know I'm not going to be available. I'm leaving for this. I don't have to run that by anyone. I also, in my job, have no salary. If I'm not meeting with people and finding a way to add value to their life, helping them manage their money or helping them with an insurance product, I'm not getting paid anything. Now, I get some trails is what we call them. I get paid off of the business I've placed before if those clients are still with me. So in a way, I've built up a salary that's about $30,000 a year is what's coming in now. So okay, that's a nice kind of base, but the company's not paying that to me. That's just because of the other clients that I've been working with that are still working with me. So because of this, no boss, I set my own schedule. So whatever hours I want to work, and I'll tell you, in the early years, it's a lot of hours to get yourself established, to build a book of business. That takes time, and there's no substitute to that. So that's kind of my favorite parts of the job, but it's also the biggest challenges to the job, right? There's no one looking over my shoulder except the business coach that I pay, right? So I pay him to make sure that I'm doing the right stuff. That's how it kind of works for me. And even setting my own hours, like that's really nice to have that flexibility. But at the same time, if I'm getting lazy, I'm not meeting with people, well, guess what? In like 30 days, whatever pay's coming in is going to be lower because I don't have that other business coming in. So it's kind of cool, and a lot of people, I think they get into this industry because of some of those freedoms, and then they wind up leaving. A lot of them do. So the turnover rate as financial advisors, over a 4-year period of time, 90% of the people that start are gone. So hitting a 10-year mark, again, that's an accomplishment. That's something. To stick around that long. And the first couple years, they're lean years. At that point, I wasn't married. I don't have any children. I could live lean. People that come in that are married, that have children, it's more of a challenge. Right? If they need to make $60,000, $70,000 a year, they're probably not for a while. It's going to take time to ramp that up. Just some interesting parts about being an actual financial advisor.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So you're talking about personal financial meetings. Do you ever work with smaller businesses? And you might have already explained that, and I wasn't here for it.
No, I did not explain that, and I do. So there's probably at this point, I'm guessing 8 to 10 companies that I'm their financial advisor. And so like their 401k plan, their group retirement plan, I'm the person that oversees that. If you think about it, as far as I'm concerned, I get paid something on managing that plan, but also it gets me in front of all of those employees so that I can sit down and do an individual plan with any of them that have interest, see what other opportunities there might be there. So yes, I do it on the individual side, but then I do on the group side also. And I personally, I'm also the in-house financial advisor for a real estate company down in Cincinnati called Huff Realty. I know we don't have Huff up here, but it's a good-sized company down in Cincy. So I'm the guy, I go between all of their offices when their agents have any questions on financial stuff, and I can also help their agents set money aside to pay their taxes and for retirement. So that's another opportunity that I have to get in front of a group of people. It's one of the challenges when I first started, again, and one of the reasons I chose the company I did, I was thinking this through. I'm like, okay, at this point I'm 28 or 29 years old, so I'll let all my friends and family know what I do. That's a few hundred people. Maybe, right? If you look in your phone, how many contacts do you have? Reach out to them. Then what? For the next 30 years, right? Who else do I reach out to? How do I get this word out that I'm a financial advisor and that I can help you? So Equitable, this company that I'm with, they have an orphan client program. So they have some crazy number, say 20,000 clients within Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky that are current clients of the companies. So they have some sort of investment account, some sort of life insurance policy or something. They don't have an active advisor. Their advisor quit, they died, they retired, advisor's gone. So it's a current client of the company. I don't have to worry about a do not call list or anything. I can reach out to them. I'm with Equitable. So having that kind of group that I could reach out to build my book of business, that was huge for me. And that's what tipped it for me to go to Equitable. The other thing I liked with Equitable is they let me do joint work with people. I realized, even my own friends, I had friends that waited to work with me because they were like, Chapman, you've been doing this for 6 months. What do you know? Great, you have all this book knowledge, but not actual practical. You've never been through a downturn or anything. So the company encourages me to work with other advisors that have been there 20, 30 years, and we set whatever percentage we want to split whatever commission might come in on that. So I was very comforted with that. Hey, help me out here. So for the first few years, I did everything joint with other guys in the office. And I'd lean on them. I'll set the meeting, you run the meeting, right? And they know how to do the paperwork, they know how to do all that stuff. And maybe it's a 50-50 split. Okay, that seems fair. So that's kind of how I got my foot in the door at Equitable and kind of grew my business that way. So, yeah, good question. What else? What other questions do you guys have? Questions, thoughts? So with your different career paths you guys had mentioned, and with finance maybe being an option there, right? What other questions do you have either about college or about finance in particular? Again, maybe not financial advisor stuff, but more finance from a schooling standpoint. Any other questions there you guys can think of? Okay, I'll keep running through my stuff here.
How did Carol prepare you?
So, okay, yeah, and that's one of the first questions. Okay, good. So, Carol, I remember when I think I was probably senior year, and we had people come in from the different colleges, from UNN, from OSU, it made sense to me then, it makes more sense to me now. The person from Ohio State said, listen, guys, and this was, I think, in the cafeteria, you guys that have interest in Ohio State, if you apply, you're going to be accepted because you went to Carroll, because we know the kind of education you got, the sort of studying that they made you do, not just the knowledge you learned, but how to study, and some of the pressures of you got a lot of homework, you have to get it done. So it meant enough to a place like Ohio State to see Carroll on your transcript that it opens that door. Whereas I had a friend who went to another one of the high schools here, he went to Fairborn High School, and he was a legacy. Both his mom and dad went to Ohio State, and he was not accepted, in part because of grades, and in part because of the reputation of the school, right? Not that Fairborn's a bad school, it's just there is something to being in a school like Carroll. So I think at Carroll here, I learned how to study and how to deal with that sort of pressure, and then carried that forward through college and then beyond. My professional licenses that I have, my securities licenses, not easy tests. Months worth of studying to be able to pass those. So Carroll planted the seeds to be able to do that. So you guys are fortunate, right, that you're here, and by graduating from Carroll, that does say something to the outside world, either to companies or to colleges. I think that it was very impactful. And then another question here I liked, what activities did you do in high school? So I'll say back in 2001, it wasn't maybe quite as popular or cool to be nerdy or to be very studious. It seems like from what I pick up now, it's a little bit cooler to either be smart or to be a nerd or whatever. So I was not athletic at all. I tried out for the soccer team at one point. It did not go well. I didn't make it through conditioning. I was almost on crutches, right? So not athletic in high school. I was on the Ohio Math League, which should have been a clue to me that I have a numbers mind. I wasn't great at it, but I was good. And then I was in Boy Scouts. And I wound up eventually getting my Eagle Scout, which that's almost come up more with clients than where I went to school, college or anything. Most adults in the real world, if I'm sitting down with a client, they don't care where I went to school. It doesn't come up. They don't want to know, I want to see your diploma or whatever. There's certain assumptions they make because I'm a financial advisor, that I've been to school, I did well, and I know financial stuff. That's about as far as it gets with most of them. But the Eagle Scout thing has come up before. So, but I will say I have lifelong friends. Again, I graduated 20 years ago, people that I still talk to regularly that I walk the halls with Carol with. So it made some awesome lifelong friendships there. And they're all different career paths, engineers and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, so okay, I'll keep going. Yeah.
So you
Nice.
But how, like, in what ways has that, do you think specifically, like, helped you on your path?
Yeah, so
Put it on your resume.
correct. And that is one of the things, like on my adult resume, right? I mean, even when I was looking, when I sent that resume out to the different companies with the cover letter, you better believe I had Eagle Scout on the bottom of that. So kind of like having Carroll next to your name by being here versus other high schools. The Eagle Scout, that just tells someone you have a couple abilities. You have the ability to see something through, right? I remember I was probably 15 or 16 years old, and one of the other leaders in Scouts sat me down and said, this is where things can go off the rails because of two things, two different smells, the smell of gasoline and the smell of perfume, right? So there's distractions as you get closer and closer to reaching 18 and getting your Eagle. So if you get your Eagle, I mean, we know such a low number of Scouts that start actually get it, that says something, right? You'll set to a task, you'll get it done. And also just the kind of, the Scout Oath, the Scout Law, the things you follow in Scouts, like that tells an employer something. And it's amazing how many other people have been in Scouts, right? Even employers, people you might interview with, it's going to tell them something about you. So yeah, push through, right? Avoid those different scents and yeah, and get it. So how close are you?
I have to finish my Eagle project.
Oh, good.
Start and finish. And then I have 2 more merit badges.
And how old are you?
17.
And how many months?
1.5, so it's very close.
Okay, so you have you have 10 months before you turn 18, or you have 2 months before you turn?
Well, actually, it's more like 1 month.
Okay,
1 month and a few days.
okay, all right. Push through. Reach out to me afterwards if you want. We can talk more about it. I have a business card here that I'll give all you guys, along with you guys as well. If you have questions along the way, please reach out, right, on any of this stuff. I'm happy to help.
So I have a question about, do you give your potential clients a bio sheet that like kind of tells you a little bit about yourself? Because that's where I thought you were heading, is that someone will read it, because a client, sure, the client doesn't see your resume. So, it's just talking points, it's just different
Yeah.
things that you can say, because this is all relationship,
That's
right?
correct. That's
People
correct.
have to trust you.
So I don't. There is no bio that I give people. Which I know is surprising in a way, right? I mean, it is still amazing to me. There's been some of my larger clients that I've taken on, they've been $1 million clients, and they've been referrals that I've received. Working from people, there's one estate planning attorney that I do a lot of work with, referring back and forth. And because my clients will have questions, do I need to set up a trust or doing wills? I know enough to be dangerous on that because I'm not a lawyer, right? And I tell them I'm not a lawyer. I've gotten referrals that way, and there's another person in my networking group who referred me someone, and again, it was an $800,000 client that came over. And so when you can get a referral like that in my business, it kind of takes the place of that. Like there's assumed credibility, right? Just basically don't mess it up. But when an attorney says, hey, John's a good financial advisor, you should talk with him, the client's like, great, here's my money. Where should we invest it? Right? That's almost it almost seems too easy at times. And then part of it also, they want to know how long I've been here. Again, if I've been here 10 years, they're like, all right, well, you know enough, but you've been here 10 years, So again, the amount of time in the business has helped also. For young people starting out in the business, so let's say that you go through college and you graduate and you go, maybe I do want something like this. Again, my company, Equitable, they have a program where younger advisors will go into schools and work with teachers specifically. Now, these are public schools, right? Catholic schools have different retirement plans for their teachers, but the public schools, even within Dayton, Cincinnati, et cetera, they need advisors to go in and actually help those teachers plan for retirement. Like you can find a company where they're a market they'll help you work within. Again, because if you graduate, you're 22 or 23 years old, first of all, your friends don't have money at that point, right, to invest. And even your parents might be like, wait a minute here. I know how long you've been doing this, same sort of thoughts I had. But again, if you're going in, you're talking to a younger teacher, and they're going to start putting $50 per pay away, that's a viable thing. They'll work with you on that, right? So there's different ways to kind of get your foot in the door. But again, I'll have you guys keep me posted if you have questions along the way. internship-wise, career, whatever stuff, and I'll give you my 2 cents. So,
Thank you so
What else?
much. This has been
yeah,
great.
absolutely. Good,
Learned
good.
a lot.
Yeah, wonderful. So I'll give you guys cards. If you have questions, reach out, call, text, email, whatever. And same thing, if you have any other students, I know that we're recording this on purpose so they can look at it, but I'm happy to come back or answer questions or whatever.
Great. Thank
So-
you again.
Awesome. Well, good, guys. Well, thanks for being here. Yeah, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.